Welcome to another episode of Arbitrary Conversations. This is DJ and what?
Skip.
And of course, we are two of four members of the Hilltop Club podcast, and we like to set aside, we're trying to get good at this once a week, come and chop it up about the things that we see going on in the world, around us, pop culture, things that we don't normally get to talk about on our podcast because we got to keep our podcast sanitary and clean. We ain't trying to catch no
Yeah.
STIs out there in the podcast world. So we try to keep those things separate, and there's a reason for that. We want to
Facts.
make sure that we keep that in its own lane and that it's delivering what it's
Mhm.
supposed to deliver because it is a resource and a tool, and it's not to be pimped out. So that's why that's not there. But on the side, whenever we feel like it, of course, other people, they may come through, slide through and talk and chat with us. But we want to chop up some of these things so we can give you a different view or our view on what we're seeing because as brothers we've always talked to each other, we always have conversations about things, and so we have a
Yeah.
pretty straightforward understanding of things. We don't always agree on everything, but in the most
No.
part we do
No.
have real rational thinking about things. So if it don't make sense, then we probably are going to be on the same page with it, and we try to point
Yeah.
these things out that we see going on in culture, especially things that affect us and folks in our either in our demographic region, um, sphere of influence and things that we do. So I know this one thing seems like it's going to be around for a while, bro. It's not going away
Man.
quickly. And it seems like there's more to digest than what was first given to us. But we're starting to see some of the same tropes that we always see when these things come about. And instead of people just getting caught in them and trapped,
Mhm.
we want to at least see if we can give them a little bit of guidance or understand from what we see with this stuff so that you don't just get caught up in the zeal of something fresh and new. Because I see that having a
Mhm.
lot of people care. They don't mean to be bad.
Mhm.
They aren't trying to
I
be bad
know.
people. They're good people. But
I know.
anybody being too zealous can get caught up. And we know that. We were raised in church. We used to
Yeah.
have to use that word all the time. We realized what zeal was
Yeah.
early. You can have great intentions, right, bro? You can have great intentions.
Yeah. With
But
it. Yeah.
too much zeal and not enough good direction, it could lead you into a
Yeah.
path that you don't want to go down. So
Facts.
we want to chit chat about some of that stuff today.
Man. And so I guess we'll start. So one of the things we always talk about all the time is, of course, we talk about life, like real important stuff.
Yep.
But we also talk about things that we hear going on like day to day in pop culture.
Mm-hmm.
And the whole purpose of us doing arbitrary conversations is just really just to kind of give people just insight to some of the conversations that we have just off, just off air when we aren't doing the actual pod itself.
Mm-hmm.
We aren't doing any interviews and just like our perspectives on those things and stuff like that, just what we think about them and just maybe some of the good things that we see and also some of the like, questionable things that we see too.
Exactly.
And so I know for us, the thing that's been really key, especially like the past few weeks, has been social media, especially from the sake of clout
Yep.
and chase like sensationalism and like misinformation are like intentionally doing it
Mm-hmm.
just for clicks and views.
That's it.
Things that are intentional, things that are deliberate, and then things that are promoted or pushed out there as they aren't deliberate.
Mm-hmm.
But it's all to, in some ways, to get a rise out of people and to get some type of engagement.
I agree. I agree. And it's sad because especially what we're gonna be discussing tonight, it's not that we're talking about impressionable minds that are doing these things. We're talking about mature folks who are doing these things. Because, like I said, part of this is talking about our folks in our demographics.
Yeah.
Because my brother, I will always tell you, we don't like to punch up or punch down when it comes to folks' age, and we like the young folk, we like the youth, we rock with the youth,
Hmm.
we ain't got no problem with the youth, and neither do we with our elders. But the folks that we can hold, that we can hold under regard are our folks, our demographics, because we're responsible
Yeah.
for ourselves and we know
Mm.
what we're dealing with, etc. And some of the things that
Yeah.
we're seeing coming out of people that are within and around our demographics are at least being promoted to our demographics. Yo, they wild.
Yeah.
They
Yeah.
wilding, meaning either either this is a handwritten plan on a piece of napkin or something at Denny's when they were eating overnight, or maybe Waffle House because they was drunk, or
Yeah.
someone typed this up and bought this to a board and they agreed on running like that, or some dude. There's some people just sitting around having some drinks, saying, "Hey, this is a way that we can make a quick coin." Either way, these things are not organic. They are actual events that are occurring and that we are watching, and you
Yeah.
know they're events, bro, because
Yeah.
some of these platforms these people get on, you would only get on them if they knew it was going to be a big time event. And that's what we're looking
Yeah.
at. These are events occurring because some of these things I haven't been paying attention. I'll tell you, and I wasn't feeling that good this week, and so I wasn't up on all the stuff that was popping off. But just in trying to catch up on some of the things that I saw, I didn't realize the platforms that some of these people were being given. And I'll tell you
Yeah.
this: there are times when you must turn some things down if you're really focused on delivering a specific message, because not
Yeah.
every arena is for everybody. And that's how you can
Yeah.
kind of tell if somebody has actual genuine good thought or in what they're doing and what's coming behind them. Because just because you offer me $6 million and say I can be on the TV, that's not where I need to be at the time. That's probably not right for my message. I'll wait for the right blessing to come. Some of these
Yeah.
people care
That's
the
true.
things that they're doing
I
and the
know.
platforms they're doing it on.
Oh, we can just go ahead and get to the point and we let them know. So today, what we're going to talk about is we're going to talk specifically about Shannon Sharp. We're going to talk about Charleston White. We'll talk about Cat Williams, and then
Mm-hmm.
we're going to talk about Jaguar Wright.
Mm-hmm.
And the conversations ultimately, we're going to cover each of them. Now, I don't know if we'll cover each of them evenly, but they all have some type of influence,
You have a
like they all
place,
have some type of place within this whole
you know,
conversation
at
that
the
we're
table.
having. Yeah. And so, really, the key point is we really just want to just point out just the fact that what you see nowadays, like so, social media is it's a gift, but then it's a curse too,
Mm-hmm.
right? Especially if you're somebody that's trying to, let's say, if someone's trying to make a living off of it, or someone's trying to have like some type of like meaningful, like large impact, right? It's a gift and a curse. And what I mean by gift is, yeah, it's opportunity for you to be able to talk to just about anybody in the world, right?
Yep.
And that's something that we all are blessed to be able to have opportunity to do now that we didn't have before. So everybody has megaphones, right?
Mm-hmm.
But then at the same time, the curse is, guess what? Everybody has megaphones,
Yeah.
and so what it comes down to, it's not even necessarily having the correct message or the correct information or accurate information.
Nope.
It's just, how do I unlearn the algorithm? How do I learn the system? And how do I learn to maximize my engagements? And engagement has nothing to do with morals, it has
No.
nothing to do with facts.
Mm-hmm.
It's just, what can I do to maximize my engagement?
Mm-hmm.
And those people who've seen success in that, especially rapidly, they were able to pick up on that really quick and then get it going, with the topics that they covered, also with the types of guests that they have on. And that's what's really key. And I think that's the thing that I really just want us to talk about today, because really a lot of it really comes down to just controversy,
That's it.
right?
Mm-hmm.
It's a train crash.
Yep.
So everyone loves to see a train wreck, right? Or you want to hear rumors of a train wreck, right? And so you bring on certain individuals that you know are going to be messy, because those are the people that you want to see on your platform, because they're going to say things that are going to offend people. And whether or not it is, just like the old saying, like what they say, there's no such thing as bad publicity.
Yeah.
It's like, they're going to say something that's either going to get a whole bunch of people heated and mad,
Mm-hmm.
and there's a whole like wave of content that's gonna be created based off of that, or it's got a whole bunch of people who really dig into that content. It's gonna go over here. But anyway, you got that. What, regardless of what happens, it's all this movement that's happening, and all this engagement, and all these ripple effects because of that stone that was thrown into the pond. Even
Exactly.
though that stone might not have been the right thing to throw into the
Nah.
pond, it still causes ripple effects. And I think that's what I really want to talk about today. And then just like even with us too, like just some of the temptations and just some of the things, like you'll go a lot like, man, if I only just started like making content where people just pop balloons,
That's it.
or if I
That's
just made
it.
content about the hip hop industry and who got touched in the hip hop industry, right?
Low hanging fruits, but it's
It's just
fruits
that low hanging
nonetheless.
fruit. Or like, like, why do black women hate black men? And why do black men hate black women? And why don't they
Because
want
y'all
to
making
talk
them
to anybody?
videos. That's why.
Right? Right? It's all these things, right? It's all this silly stuff, right? But the thing is, man, these are the things that get clicks and engagements.
That's true.
And it's very disappointing for a lot of people who are trying to go out here and trying to make meaningful content. Really, it's like to share some valuable information or share some insight with people
That's
in a
it.
healthy way. And they get discouraged and they see that and it's like they're going to hit a wall. You know, it's like, man, these jokers get up here and bring Jaguar right up here. And she talking all this crazy stuff, spewing all this stuff. Nobody can verify
None of
anything,
it.
but it's getting all these views, and I'm actually trying to bring up an actual you know, it'd be like so. I'm actually trying to bring up a psychologist talking about blah 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 blah
Yeah.
issues of traumas and families and how can we resolve those things and move on, like positive stuff, right? And they might spend money, they might spend advertising, right? They might have a nice studio, a production studio, and everything, and they're not gonna have the impact that somebody can have just throwing stuff off the top of their head.
Nah, man. Nah, man. It ain't sensational. It ain't
And
sensational,
that's the thing.
Kev. It don't get the people going. You know what I'm
And
saying?
that's yeah.
That's what you're looking at.
And that's the most depressing thing about it, man. Because it's like there are so many. Because like I go online every day, and like I said, because I'm a podcast connoisseur. Like a lot of people don't realize that like outside of like us producing our own stuff, if I'm not listening to an audio book and if I'm not actually reading a book, I'm usually listening to podcasts. It's
Mm-hmm.
usually things, and I binge. So like local content creators, I'll check out their stuff. I'll sit listen to multiple episodes of theirs. Anything else that comes up that I see that just has as interest to me, it doesn't have to be sensational stuff,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And then
Subject.
even sometimes, yeah, and occasionally I listen to like streamers and stuff
Yeah.
too. But what you can tell, but it's like you can tell like when somebody is really working on things and you can tell they're really trying to put out like meaningful content so
There's
people
a
can get
direction
something that
to
whether
it.
or not was a direction to it. And not saying that you can't be entertained because I think if you get good information that could be entertaining itself too, right?
Mm-hmm.
But everything doesn't have to be you can be entertained, but it doesn't always have to be sensational,
There you go.
right? And so, and I just think sometimes, especially with us having access to all this technology's resources, to be able to disseminate meaningful information to each other, it's like we just waste our
You
time on it
stopped.
day to day.
We used to.
Yeah, and I think that's what's probably the most depressing part of it because it's like, man, all we can talk to anybody we want to talk to in the
Yep.
world, but what are we doing? Balloon pop challenges, right? And it doesn't even have to be like your super ultra toxic like hustle culture stuff, you know, because you know that kind of because people think when you think positive, it's got to be like either it's got to be like super religious or it has to be like super entrepreneurial. You know, it doesn't.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
don't even
Yeah.
say
Yeah.
it
Yeah.
none of
We're
that,
so much cheesy.
but
Mm-hmm.
yeah, it's just, but yeah, it's like there's a balance. You know, there's a lot of amazing content creators out here that is dropping some amazing content stuff, but they can't get through the algorithm either because they can't figure it out or they're not willing to bite that bullet. You know what I mean? Bite that apple.
Do
And
what's
of course,
required.
yeah, and when we talk about biting that apple, you know, the first person who comes to mind is Shannon Sharp with biting that apple.
He ain't need to, man. He ain't have to. He
I
didn't
know.
have to. He already did it the first time when he made the right decision with Skip and dealing with Skip.
Hmm. Yeah, and I think that's the thing that oh
Ah, oh Lord, oh Lord. But yeah, man, yeah, he really he started off in a good space, and that's how most people are. And that's what I was saying earlier. Like, it doesn't mean these people are bad people or anything like that. There's no judgment being
mhm.
placed on them. It's just that everybody's given the opportunity and the chance to make moral decisions in their lives. And when it comes
Yeah,
to the money business of streaming and being making content, as people like to call it, just entertainment. It's all it is, but
yeah.
entertaining people either through information. Um,
Pause real quick. Let her walk by. You're welcome.
there you go.
Now we can resume.
There we go. Either making content for to have music, to have just a video talking about sports, whatever. It's all entertainment at the end of the day. So we're still in the
Yeah,
entertainment industry. That's what I want people to
Yeah,
understand too. We didn't get out of that
yeah,
industry. Lots of people think that because it's in the internet, because you're a content creator, I like the euphemisms and names they use, all are so wonderful,
yeah.
right? Flowery language, right?
Of
Um,
course.
it allows people to detach themselves. Because think about it, Kevin, it's hilarious. The stuff that is going on with some of these people that we're about to talk about, they are in the same industry as the people who are making the content. And they're saying that
Yeah,
they want to be outside of it and that they want to be independent of it and that they don't have nothing to do with it and they want to be on
but
they,
yet,
but
but yet they
you're,
want to still make
there you
money
go,
in the
in the
industry
industry because
that they're
yeah, because it all
criticizing.
feeds into the same place. Because at the end of the day, with these folks, the reason why a person like Shannon Sharp decided to bite that apple is because he made great decisions. He did was doing things properly. He was
Hmm.
able to sustain, make money, doing a show with Skip. And it's the funny thing because Shannon Sharp, we know he started with NFL Network and CBS.
Yeah,
So from there, he got on the show FS1, got his first contract where he was just a spotlighted individual. He was
hmm,
already still working with
yeah,
NFL Network. So it's not like he
yeah.
was hurting or anything like that.
No,
But the thing was, working with the person that he was working with who already detached themselves from somebody else who was doing the same thing that he was
yeah,
doing, you could kind of see
and
where it
you,
was going.
yeah, because even when you think about it, with especially with Skip, Skip was in that line. So, gosh, this is gonna be a dope conversation because this is what makes it very interesting. Because if you think about it, it's probably Skip that put Shannon on the path that he's on now.
That's why he
It's
always
just
thanks him, even though he had
so
that
yeah.
spat, because he realized that's what it was.
Even with some of the questionable things that we're going to talk about in a few, because if you think about it, Skip Bayless, as much as people might want to talk trash about him from the sports media side, he's a bona fide journalist
He is.
within sports industry, especially when it comes to football,
Yep.
especially. But
Cowboys.
oh no, gosh, I can't say the Cowboys.
Ah,
Gosh, I hate the Cowboys. But like you said, because gosh, this is okay. This is dope. All right, I see where we're going with this. So he's of course he's known as a journalist, but one of the things that they started doing, especially when he was on Cold Pizza,
mm-hmm.
was that's when they started putting that entertainment because they started the whole
Format.
debate
That
thing
was the first
format,
time. That was the
right?
first time
First time, right? He started the debate format. Like I
for a
said, they were
full
just
for a full
regular sports
show.
journalists.
For a full
Yeah,
show, that is, because I
yeah,
want people
started
to
a big
realize
show.
that before you had him doing what he was doing, you would have like small, like 1 or 2 minute debates on sports stuff,
Hmm.
topics,
Hmm.
but it wouldn't be a full out show where you had debating figureheads. Did not
Yeah,
occur. It did not occur, and not for
no,
more than a segment.
no, and that's the whole key. Like you say, you never had like continuous controversy or things
Nope.
intentionally being bubbled up
Yep. Friction.
constantly. Like, yeah, it
Friction.
was
No.
always there.
Mm.
It's always friction, right?
Because sports is pretty
And
black and white, right?
boring. Yeah,
It's come on, it's you either win, you
yeah,
lose, you get the numbers, you don't get the numbers. After that, you just talk about how it happened, when it happened, and the date and time. That's how it used to
that's
be.
it.
We remember that. We grew
Yeah,
up in it. It used to be
yeah,
like that.
yeah. Like you said, but they were the ones they pushed down. Like, okay, we got to have this interaction, or like you said, that friction,
Yeah.
right? And and then you got to think about who started out with Skip on cold pizza in our first take.
It was Steven.
Yeah, Stephen
Yep.
A. Right, Stephen
Hmm.
A. Smith.
Yeah.
Right, Stephen A. Smith. Contra, and it's so fun because there's so many parallels. There are a lot of people who can't stand Stephen A.
At
Smith.
all.
Right,
At all.
but the thing is, when it comes to sports journalism, he is a professional,
Yeah.
a professional when it comes to sports
From high
journalism.
school sports
High school.
to professional. That's what I don't think people get
Yes.
that. You talk trash, say whatever you want about
Yeah.
him, but the
Yeah.
man did it the right way, all
Yeah.
the way up.
And
Yeah.
the reason why, and I want to share this with everybody, the reason why we're making all these connections right now is you got to realize the reason why we got to where we got to now, why we see the figures that we see now, is because it wasn't an overnight thing. It was a gradual thing. It was incremental,
Hmm.
and how people move and how they process, and it'll allow people to. So if one person takes one step, they don't got to take that step. They can go they can go a step
They can.
ahead of
Yep.
them, or they
Whoop,
can
whoop,
go
whoop.
two steps ahead of them. Then the person after that can take it to another step.
Yep.
And so that's essentially what we're trying to share, especially when it comes to someone like Shannon, how he was able to take it and how he ended up doing what he's doing now.
Hmm.
because, like I said, it's just those same principles. But I make a long story short, when, like I said, Shannon got over there on Undisputed, and he got into that format, right? And then he started having those conversations and those interactions, and they saw that it was getting some traction to it and getting engagement, and especially with him being a part of it, he started playing into it too,
Yeah.
and he started doing things outside of just the show itself
Mm-hmm.
to keep it entertaining. Like when he had the cigar
And the
that with the
goat
cigar
head,
stuff, go ahead and
and
all
Snoop
that,
came and
and
bought him the
it's
stuff. Yeah.
yeah, right. So he already was peeping game. It was like, oh man, if I could just keep people engaged or just always have something for them to like pull a meme off of or to keep them talking about me, this is going to help keep more people watching the show.
And that
But most
works.
importantly, it's
It
going to help.
works for him because
Yeah,
again, not saying that we dating ourselves, but we watched Shannon Sharp play football. I know
football.
how
Yeah,
he was on the side. He was a
yeah,
very boisterous, flamboyant type of guy.
yeah.
On it, so it's easy for him to do those types of
It's
things.
natural for him.
Yeah, it's not even like he asking too much.
It's natural
So
for him.
remember that.
Especially
Remember
especially
that.
when you watch. And if y'all go back, just go back and watch. Just go online, look up NFL films, look up Shannon
Yes,
Sharp, Denver
yes,
Broncos, and you'll
yes.
see it. This dude
Very
was always
hilarious.
on the
It's
sideline
funny.
talking
It's
trash,
not bad. It's
making
funny
jokes.
stuff.
Yeah, but he's always had what you see now. He's always had those things in him. It's just you didn't have tools like we do today to be able to capitalize off of those things.
Nah, he'd have had like millions of
That's
he would have had millions of followers on Instagram.
oh yeah,
Yeah.
oh yeah. And so, one of the things that you realize, you can tell, is he's starting to realize that power that he has, or at least that influence.
Mm-hmm.
And with him working with somebody like Skip, and with Skip having his position, his status, especially with him having that show, there sooner or later they were going to bump heads, and one of them was going to have to go,
Yeah.
right? And so, of course, that's when they had that whole thing about Tom Brady, that whole little debacle. And then, like, essentially what Skip did when he kind of ragged on him was kind of put him in his place.
Yeah.
The show's like, yeah, you can say all this, but I can say this because it's my show. And what are you gonna do about it, right?
That
And
was
he's like,
it.
nah, I gotta go do something. Like I said, he got a right to do what he want to do,
Yeah.
right? He's grown. Like I said, hey, it's a job. He could leave it. And but like I said, but the whole time he was just building up these platforms underneath because he was like, if I could take this magic sauce that I already have over here and I can use it for myself, and I have the freedom to do things outside of what the show might constrain me to do.
Yeah.
I'm going to start doing those
Yeah.
things,
And he's
right?
already
I'm
a
going to do it for
showman.
myself. Yeah, that's it, right? And so that's what he started. Club Shay
Club Shay
Shay, and
Shay.
then what's the other show? What's the technical? What's the name of the show he does with Chad Ochocinco? Is that
The
Shake Lounge or like the Nightcap or something?
nightcap.
Yeah, Nightcap, right? But he started expressing those different things, as far as like those different sides of personalities. This kind because it's like you can go up there, you talk, he wants his stuff, right?
Right. That's who Shay.
And
That's who
when
he really is. Because that's
who he
look.
is,
What's so
right?
funny? Again, watch some NFL films. They got the guys talking about how he really is, like in the locker room, how he acts up when they be out, etc., hanging out with folks.
Yeah,
Like again, remember that for later. This is
yeah,
it's very easy. There's not much filter. He doesn't have
mm-mm.
much shame, y'all, like when it comes to stuff like that.
No,
Think for later. Remember that.
yes, yes, and that's the whole point. And so when he went over to ESPN, he got with Stephen A. And like we mentioned, Stephen A. and Skip are very similar.
Yep.
They kind of set the platform for someone like a Shannon to be able to come in and be able to push it to another, and be able to go push it
Push
up
it up
to
another
another
level.
notch, right?
Mm-hmm.
Even to the point where all of a sudden Stephen A. started realizing, like, man, I got to get my own separate
Say
content
it.
going, where I
Yeah.
start pushing on, where I start talking about different things,
Yep.
right? And so that's how, and essentially, it was weird because Stephen A. and Skip essentially influenced Shannon, but then Shannon ended up influencing them, especially Well, he started influencing Skip
Because he had
at the
him
time
do
because Skip
yeah.
was like, "I got to bring more black dudes back up here who I can interact with." And that's when he
Say
started bringing everybody in there,
yep.
right?
Yep.
Because he couldn't really replace
Shannon.
Shannon, but then he started influencing Stephen A.
Mm-hmm.
Right? to where Stephen A was like, man, I got to go out here and I got to look at some other stuff too, because something could happen to me, and I need to have some type of social media presence. And I remember he would talk about that on a lot of his episodes starting out
Yeah, I remember.
and whatnot.
Yeah, so he can actually
Hmm.
talk about the things that he wanted to talk about and etc. Ah,
Yeah,
hey, makes sense.
yeah. But what happened when it came to Shannon was, like I said, I think Shannon was thinking, I think with those other guys, they were just thinking at a certain level when it comes to that type of platform, that type of engagement. Whereas Shannon had like some like Anakin Skywalker stuff going on in his mind when it came to that media thing.
Yeah, I know what you mean. I know
It's
what you mean.
yeah, and the reason why I say that is even before the Cat Williams interview, one of the things that you started noticing was with the guests that he was bringing on his show, because he has access to be able to talk to different people, not only just from him being a known, not just known in the entertainment industry, right?
Hmm.
Just him being a former athlete and then him having a platform. There's people he can bring on to get them to talk with him, right? And so with him doing that, like, and I'll put it like this: it's so for some people, it would take them years to get up to that point. Even certain entertainers within the industry, period, it would take them time to get to that point. But because he already had a platform, it was instant snap, right?
Yeah,
And he was able to bring on those different folks, like
and
I
he's at a
said, who
certain
had
age,
those
Kevin. He's at a
conflicts.
certain age.
That's key too,
Yeah.
because a lot of the people they was bringing on, they're all in that same demographic as him, because
Hmm.
they're all Gen X,
There you
right?
go.
So he was bringing on all these Gen X folks, right? And so he's able to connect with them much easier and to bring them on. And these are all people who had controversy. And these are all people primarily who had conflicts. And so sooner or later, you keep rubbing that flint together, right? You're gonna spark something's gonna happen.
Hmm.
And that's what I thought was very funny, because even leading up to the Cat Williams thing, I was like, why is he always just talking to all these comedians?
That was crazy. You called me anything, you called it too, bro. You called it. It was just nothing but comedian, 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 comedian. And I was like, it is
Yeah,
interesting. I was like, maybe he just has a lot of friends who are comedians. Because, athletes love comedians.
yeah,
They love
yeah,
busting the
that's
Joneses
true.
on each
Hmm.
other. So, it always was like that. Like athletes and comedians, they were always really good friends, sometimes with actors, but comedians and athletes, they get along well. That's why a lot of athletes do roast. Um, it does make sense, but I didn't realize how many contacts he's been making in that community.
Yeah, yeah. He's like I said. That's why I said I don't think there's no such thing as a conspiracy. I just think they're really good plans.
That's it. That's why I said
I
people.
think it's really good plans.
Yeah, that's it. That's all people. They just really writing stuff
Yeah,
down, man.
like you said, they sitting there and they're just writing that stuff down.
Yeah.
And I think, and just from maybe his knowledge, just different celebrities within the industry, especially within that comedy scene, because that's really what it was.
Hmm.
Because he built the platform off the comedy scene. Yeah, he
Hmm.
had other people up there, but it's primarily the comedy scene that did it.
Even right now, the
And
big comedy scene.
mhm,
He finally got on another big fish. He got Mark Cuban on there,
mhm,
which was that
yeah,
was interesting. But you're talking about,
yeah,
I mean, any comedian that you could think of in the last 20 years that
yeah,
usually
and it was
that did stand up. That's why I tell people, not
yeah,
just right. Nah, yeah, probably had done stand up comedians. He has
and it was
had them up there.
interesting.
Hmm.
And the thing that really got me about that was because if you think about it, he had to do the Cat Williams interview, or that was intentional for him to. I really feel like, and this is my opinion, but if you really are if you're trying to get a particular contact, or you're trying to connect with somebody that might not necessarily connect with you initially or right away,
Hmm.
it's always good. I feel like he was like, let me talk to people that have a specific, have maybe conflicting opinions about him that
I
he may
see.
have had some history with,
Hmm.
right? And I let everybody talk and speak their mind, right?
He doesn't
He
stop
does it
them.
right,
He
right?
doesn't stop them. Let him get it off.
And so everybody lets everybody talk and speak their mind, and then he'll bring up and he'll throw it. And I just noticed this, and he would bring up different comedians, but he always wanted to bring up Cat Williams to a lot of these guys,
Yeah. Yeah.
especially the contemporaries, right, or people
Yeah.
who might be seen as
Yeah.
contemporaries, and they would say what they would say, and of course, with them being comedians, they would joke too,
And
right?
it's not being
And
mean spirited. It's just what they do. He
they
knows they're
do,
gonna do it.
right,
Yeah.
right, and the way they respond, and so and it's like, and I can just imagine before that interview, Cat Williams was like, "Oh man, oh I see how they talking about me. Oh, I see this. Oh, that's what you saying. Oh,"
Man, I seen them
and
do
it
that
was
on Law
like,
and Order last night. That's how they got the guy
and it's
caught up. They had a little boy listening while
yeah,
he was talking all kinds of trash about him, and so he squealed. He told everything.
yeah, because it's like it's sort of like it's like he's not it's like he's indirectly instigating.
But that's what they called him,
That's
Kevin.
all.
This is what I'm
I know.
saying. Watch the
Yeah.
NFL films. That's the
So
same mother. It's the same
I know.
dude.
I know.
And so
That's
he
what's
used
so
to
funny
always try
about
to get guys to fight and pick with each other and all that. And so when I saw this happening, Kevin, right? I watched so many NFL films.
it. Yeah.
I knew it was
Hmm.
about to happen. That's why when that Cat Williams interview came out, when they were talking, I said, "Oh, I'm gonna listen to this one." I said, "Because after that, it's done." That's what I said in my head. I was like, "After
Yeah.
that," because I knew he done instigated a big fight. He already had the Stevie
Yeah.
Harvey up there. He had Said up there. He had DL. He had all of them. All of,
That's what
and
I'm
everybody
saying.
knows the beef with the Kings of Comedy. Everybody already knows what
Yeah.
it is. It's well known
Yeah.
in
I
the
know.
comedy world. And if he's been in the comedy world and around the folks in the comedy world, he knows exactly what he's doing. It's like me bringing all the mean bloods up and then bringing all the
Yeah.
mean Crips and then all the
No.
mean GDs and letting them
Of
talk trash
course,
about each
something's
other.
gonna happen.
I'm gonna start a gang war. People are gonna be busting people up. There's all kinds of
That's
mayhem
what
going
I'm
on out here.
saying. That's what I'm saying. And that's the whole. And what
Oh
people
Lord.
don't get is what we're talking about. That's the
That's the
whole
point.
model
Yeah,
with
that's the
all these
model. That's the
platforms.
model. That's how you get it. That's how you get the
They
business.
all
That and
they all bring on guests like, oh, this person don't like this person, or this person has a conflict with this person,
they bought the
or they
ops
had a
on.
falling out one time,
Yeah,
and then they'll come back and then nobody ever. And then it's funny too, because this is all connected. It's just like so. I know we're going to jump in. We're going to talk about Charles Wayne and all them other ones, but I know
yeah.
we need to finish up
You Shannon.
with Shannon. But one of the things I realized, especially once he got that interview, it was like he went into overdrive. And what I mean by that, it's
Mm-hmm.
sort of like you could tell like when somebody gets a certain, and this is somebody who's very successful.
Yeah,
Like they like he's probably like this compared to people in the world. He probably like wanted this like just not money wise, but just success where you start out in life, where
and
you
where
end
you're
up
at. Yeah,
at,
yeah. From
where you're
coming
at. You might
the
have maybe
there you go.
he's like in maybe like that 5%. Now this
Yeah,
is estimate, not accurate. This is a very small percentage of people
Kevin. He ain't have
who
plumbing.
have this program. That's what I'm saying.
That's what I'm saying. This is not the. He's very
Yeah,
lucky.
yeah. And so this is that's a very unlikely scenario, right? For just even to be where he's at, right? And so you see that, and then you get that much success, and for folks like that, it's they don't just rest on it because
Oh,
they wouldn't have got to where they got to if they just rested on it, right?
Bill.
It's it's so it's like the thing is, what do I have to do to keep moving forward or to keep progressing? How do I top that?
Yeah,
And when you get to that point, and this is the human nature thing, what are you willing to do
to
in
keep it
order
moving.
to move it?
Yeah, keep the train going. You
Yeah,
got to feed it
and that's
fuel. The
right,
coal. Yeah,
right. And one of the things I realized, and that's one of the, when I saw when he had the video, with that tape, I guess the little Instagram live video.
the tape. The audio
That was one of the
recordings,
first things.
Kevin. The
That's not a
audio
tape; it's
recording.
audio recording, right? The audio recording, right? And one of the things I thought about, I was like, man, like why? I was like, it takes like 5 or 6 different steps for you to cut on an Instagram to cut on your Instagram live.
Yep.
Right. This is not like nobody just doesn't walk around with like an instant one button Instagram live, all of a sudden a
It don't
video
work.
pop.
Yeah.
That's not how it works, right? Because you know these fools got iPhones. Everybody iPhone
Say it.
got a pin number on. You got to
3-step
open
encryption.
stuff, option, right?
Yep.
And then you go in, then you go in the app, and then you got. We already know the steps. We're not
Yeah.
like I said. It's at least 4 to 5 steps
Even if you can
just to
use
be
your
able to
face
get
to
from your
unlock
phone.
it,
Yes, it's
still,
still about four or
still,
five steps. And when that video dropped, I was just, and it was just, it was so funny because he
I
had his face. How do you take a video? It was on live, but it was faced directly down at the floor,
perfectly, and it was
perfectly on the floor.
a perfect mistake. And Man, that hurt my feelings when I saw that. Cause I was like, Uncle Shay
Now
Shay, you done took the
it
bait.
was faced perfectly at the floor.
Yeah,
Now, if the camera was on the floor,
yeah,
you wouldn't see anything because it would be covered up by the floor.
yep.
So you're saying that the camera was literally being held above the floor, was just up at, like you were doing your thing, and
Just
the
a little
phone just
bit.
floating to the side?
Just float to the side, bro. Just to get to the
Because
side. Right to the side, perfectly. No issues, never shook, never fell, never turned nothing. Just
no,
perfect to the side. Matter of fact, he said he threw it down and threw some stuff over it. What'd he
that's
throw
what
over it,
like how you
Kevin?
throw
What'd
some
he throw over it?
right.
I'll wait.
That's what I'm saying,
I'll wait. He ain't throw nothing over that stuff.
man. But dude, but with that said, right, that's how you know. I'm not saying anything staged because I wasn't there. None
Nah,
of us were there.
weren't there.
But I'll say this:
It's
I would not be
highly unlikely
surprised, likely,
for
that
that
he did
scenario
that.
to be
It's,
true.
it's yeah, highly unlikely. Not for that, not for that phone to look like that
Nah,
and to record that way.
nah.
Someone he probably was like, "Yo,
And
it
how he
might be a
was
good
notified
idea if
afterwards of what was going
for
on, and it was still
yeah,
running.
yeah, yeah,
So you tell me that the Instagram live, you turned it all on, did all that, and you had it running in the background simultaneously. I don't know them new Apple iPhones, man, them M1
yeah."
chips. I don't know, maybe that's what they're doing,
Yeah,
or the
but the
A1
fact you
chip.
had it covered over with, but if it was covered over with clothes, then how would you see anything? That's the whole point, right? And the thing I realized, and of course, a lot of people were clowning him about his close fitting clothes,
Yeah,
and they never seen him with any like female friends, right?
very convenient.
And I think, and I believe he has kids.
He
Doesn't he
does.
have a
Yeah,
daughter?
yeah,
Yeah,
his
he has
daughter. Yeah, he has
kids. Yeah, he
kids.
has a daughter and everything
Ain't
and
nothing.
stuff. But this is what's so sad about the
Yeah.
world we live in now, because he has such a social media presence online, and that's so important to his brand and his livelihood, or how he presents himself to the world. Anytime he gets those questions or gets that type of engagement regarding that topic,
Mm-hmm.
that's something that probably bothered him to an
Oh yeah.
extent to where he was like, I
Oh
gotta
yeah.
put something out, either dispelling these questions or to troll or the
What's
client,
going on? Mm-hmm.
what's going on, letting them know what's really going on, right? Just a little engagement stuff. Because even like the response he had afterwards was corny.
It
It was whack
was.
after all that.
It wasn't a real response.
Yeah.
But he knew by doing it, and this is what we're talking about
Mhm.
too tonight, is he had to keep the train going. And
Yeah.
recently his train has been slowing down. And that's because he's
Yeah.
actually been he hasn't since he actually got out of the a little bit of the controversy, because it did bubble over to the point where he was getting hate mail and people were talking trash about him, all that other
Yeah.
bad stuff. We knew about that. So he had fell
Yeah.
back a little bit, and he had just been doing his day job, and then on the
Yeah.
side doing safe comedians. He had Bruce up there,
Yeah. Gary
Gary
Owens.
Owens,
Yeah.
folks like that. People you
Yeah.
should be having up there, right? And then recently he had Mark Cuban,
Yeah.
but he's been doing that. But at the
Yeah.
same time, he still needed to stay on fire, and so
Yeah.
he had to light that
It's not
fire
the same as
again.
that. Yeah, it's not the same. It's not the
He
same.
had to light the
It's like
fire, and so he bit that apple, and he took the plunge. He decided he was going to go all in on this content thing. That's what I said. It's not. It's entertainment,
man,
man. People need to stop killing themselves,
man.
kidding themselves about it. Rather, it is entertainment. So he wanted to make
Yeah,
sure that people still knew he was an entertainer, which is what he always has been. The NFL is listed as an entertainment industry. It's what it's there for. You watch it for entertainment. He's sports entertainment, and so he had to make sure that he backed himself up with that. And so it's sad to watch that though, Kev. Because this man,
yeah,
a
it is.
grown man. He grown man. He grown man, bro.
But it's like he feels like he has no choice. In order for him, he needs to stay relevant, and this is the life he chooses for himself, or this is the way he chooses to make a living, right?
Yep.
Because even though he has first take is not enough for him in that regard. He really wants this other life, right? And he
Yeah.
wants this particular image. He wants it is, man. Like I said, it's so sad, man. It's so sad seeing that.
He got two
But it ties,
podcasts. He had two
yeah,
podcasts, a show. He's featured on other things too. I mean, he still sit and do stuff on other networks and stuff. It's not like he's
mm,
he has his ESPN thing, but they do football, so he can go and do football stuff elsewhere. But
yeah,
outside of that, that is crazy. It's not going to be
yeah.
enough.
Mm-mm.
It's
That's a
not.
sad thing.
It's not going to be
And
enough.
so then you got the other person. that we'll talk about. And this is very similar too, because I actually like the story. He's very interesting. Like this dude's always been very interesting. Like Charles and White's always been very interesting to me
Yep. Yep. He's one
because,
of them living contradictions. We like those people.
yeah, he's a living contradiction. He's a broken clock, right? He's
Yep.
truly a broken clock.
Mm-hmm.
And the sad thing is, he tells people the actual truth about so many things,
Mm-hmm.
about how he got to where he got to, and at least what he shares the reason why he got to where he got to. But people are always entertained, and they don't really get the message
Yeah.
out of what
Yeah.
he's trying to say. And it's like, so I remember he was, so of course, for a lot of people who might not know Charleston White, Charleston White's from Dallas, Texas. He's definitely like a social media sensation. He's been on a lot of different podcasts and stuff, talking about different things. But his thing's always about very controversial. He started out like talking trash about gangsters, or at
Yep.
least
Yep.
people who associate with that, right? Bless
Yep. Bless you.
people like that. But and then like, hey, they won't get me. I went in their neighborhood. They ain't do nothing to me. I went them.
Like
They ain't
it's
slapped me
similar
in
to
my mouth.
Takashi 6ix9ine.
Yeah, yeah, that's it. Just agitator, right?
Yep.
And
Agitator.
so he got known for that. And so people were like, and then you would hear on top of that these interactions or these rumors of these interactions in these different neighborhoods where either people tried to check him or something happened, but then he'd still pop out on the other end, very similar to Takashi, right? And then he get online, he'd still be talking trash about, and that just
Yep.
built up his engagement. But as he was talking about that, then he started talking about like other issues that would go on, especially in the black community,
Yep.
right? So he talked about a lot of things that related to like relationships, of course, youth, um,
Violence.
just violence, right? A lot of stuff I don't agree with,
Recidivism.
right?
That's his big thing.
Recidivism,
Yeah.
right? A lot of it, because like I said, when I hear him, it's very similar to how I used to listen, like hear somebody like a Kevin Samuels.
Yeah.
Like sometimes they would say things that would have a little bit of grain of truth to them, but it's like the same as you listening to somebody older, like an older relative saying things, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
They're gonna have like old, like general wisdom about things, but it's not like you're gonna trust them with everything, and they're not always right. So you just got to listen to them with a grain of salt,
There you
right?
go. There you go.
Yeah, you just whatever makes sense, which is logical, which makes sense. Because sometimes, y'all remember, sometimes there are folk who live longer. They might not always be right about everything, but they do. Sometimes they do have a grain of wisdom that you can take and you can apply to your life, or at least you take the lessons from it and you understand it.
There you go.
But with that said, he pretty much, like I said, he's always in some mess. He's always arguing
Mm-hmm.
with somebody. I know with him, his main thing is, I don't know what happened to him, but he has like a huge beef with black women. That's all I know.
Okay, we talking about, man. I'm not gonna lie. There's a lot of people that they angry at women in general.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
Because he hits on relationship stuff. He hits on the violence. He hits on, um, what's the other thing? That's his main thing. Of course, he talks about the community stuff all the time.
All the time.
Right?
That's all you should have been
One thing that,
talking about.
yeah, but even he talked like, and so I know one thing because I think he has a background. Of course, he talks about his life, how he grew up. He grew up in like a middle class family. I think he's from like Dallas area.
Mm-hmm.
From a middle class family, like his mom took care of him. He didn't want for anything, but he wanted to be hood and ratchet because of rap music,
That's
right?
it. That's it.
And he got into trouble, and he just generally got caught up into things,
He was a crash dummy, man. He's a crash test dummy.
right?
But he didn't crash
Right, and
all the
he
way
got
out.
locked.
He didn't crash all the
No, he
way
did
out.
it, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, he said got associated. He was associated with gangs and stuff like that,
Mm-hmm.
but got his life back on track. Went to school, but then he wanted to go in. He wanted to work with youth. Right, that was his main thing.
Mm-hmm.
Trying to work with youth, work with the community. But I remember one of the things that happened to him. He shared was he burned out.
He
He
did.
talked about burning out
Yep.
because he would try to do all this work. He'd do all these things, and he wasn't getting no help from the people around him in the community that he was trying to help out, or those who may have seen the work he was doing as beneficial. They just weren't supporting him
Mm-hmm.
where he needed support. And then I think he just gave up and was like, man, forget this. I'm just going to go to the dark life,
That's it.
go back.
Real talk.
Or at
That's what
least
happened.
in his bio, he said what he knew that would keep people engaged or at least would listen to him.
Mm-hmm.
So he literally, I guess you would say in his mind, he was like, in order to even get people to pay attention to what's going on, what's happening, I got to become a part of the problem itself in order to highlight what's going on.
Because that was his way
Which
of thinking. That's how you become. visible, successful, because everybody wants to be famous. Um,
Yeah,
and I think that's part of that's the issue in our community. I mean, other
yeah,
communities, yeah, everybody wants to be. There's a bunch of people want to be famous, but for us, Kevin, you
yeah,
see the links we'll go to be famous. You
yeah,
see the Diddy files, the links that will go
man,
to be famous.
yeah.
It's just it's it's ridiculous, bruh.
It's
Fame
sad.
ain't that serious, man. It ain't that serious
It's
because, like you say, he should have always just stayed on his lane of talking about what his message was and reach the few correct people that he need to reach because some of these people they ain't trying to ride it anyway. So why do you want like you don't even need to get their attention? I remember growing up, Kevin, we
yeah,
having to learn that lesson.
yeah,
All attention ain't good attention. You don't need to be in
yeah,
everybody's face. Some people's faces,
yeah,
there's a reason why you aren't in it, and you got to stay away from it.
yeah.
Hmm.
I agree, and I think well, in his attempt, I think he doesn't realize that he's unintentionally spreading misinformation
Nah.
because even though what he might be saying is for shock value, there are
Hmm.
people that are taking that as truth
Gospel.
or gospel, right? And they're
Hmm.
living their lives and they're applying their lives by that.
Hmm.
And that's what you got. And so whenever you have access to a platform, you got so many eyes on you. You need to be you got to be mindful about what you put out there into the world.
Just like a preacher.
And it's ironic, right, that he does that, but at the same time complains about hip hop because that's the same argument
That's what it
that
is.
hip
Yeah.
hop
It
artists
spreads
give when it comes to their
misinformation.
music, right? And they're like, "Oh man, what you shouldn't be listening to that anyway." Where the parents at? They need to stop them from listening to it. Kids want to go and listen to stuff their parents don't want them to do. That's been
It's
since the
one on
beginning of
one.
time,
Yep, 101.
right? So you can't say that my kids don't listen to that. Well, then why are you making it? Right? And then it comes back. Well, I got to find a way to eat, and I got to do that. Right? Come on,
Simpletons,
right?
simpletons.
Simple stuff, right?
Yeah,
But the thing is, it's all about that. Like I said, it's all about what gets people going, what keeps them engaged, what's the controversy, and then when you have folks like that out here, and then the other person that we're going to talk about, we're going to wrap up with Jaguar Wright. You have people that all of a sudden start don't trust traditional media or trust traditional journalism
yeah.
because for one they don't think it doesn't feel authentic to them or it doesn't feel like if it feels like it's hiding something from them, right? Or it's keeping them away from the truth of things. And then I think also too, when you have folk like you have those types of people out there who get attracted to that type of like that type of sensationalism and misinformation, you run into a lot of issues with like elitism, right?
Mm-hmm.
And oh, you think you're better than me. Oh, you trying to, they don't like the way, even with communicate, like communications, like the way people talk to each other. It's like they're looking down on them,
Yeah,
and they don't like that either.
and they want you to,
Oh,
and it's kind of sad, Kevin. It's I hate to say like there's
hmm
a false equivalent made between proper information and the delivery system and the way in which you value that information. And I think that's weird because we've been taught old school way like it doesn't matter how the information is delivered. I have to
hmm
synthesize it and determine if it's actually valid.
yeah,
From
exactly.
there, I'll take it or I'll leave it. What has happened
hmm
now is there's no part where this information is ever synthesized and determined on whether or
No,
not it is valid or invalid. It's accepted based on a person's affinity for the delivery system.
yeah,
All right,
that's all.
so
It's
that's it. If I like watermelon and you put my medicine on watermelon, I'm eating it. If I like steak and you
yeah,
put my medicine on
yeah,
steak, I'm eating it. Anything
that's
else, I'm
it.
not taking it. It's just that's
Yeah,
how it is. That's how people have it's gotten dumbed down to that point. But
yeah. No, I agree, man, and that's pretty much, and I think that's probably the most disappointing part too, because it's like sometimes you can have the correct information, but
hmm
if it's not packaged the right way, and
yeah,
that's one of the things I'm noticing too,
hmm
if you don't come across with a certain appearance or a certain way of carrying yourself, or even a certain inflection in your voice and the way
yep,
you put words together,
hmm
and certain tone in your voice, and like just the general way you carry yourself, there are a lot of people who won't even give you the time of day.
yeah, it's an art.
So Yeah, it's an art too.
They made it into an art, and I mean, we like art, but at the same
Yeah,
time, there's certain things that are supposed to be in an artistic space, in my opinion, and there are things that should be in a purely informational
hmm
space, meaning like it's there as a
yeah,
tool, something to use to help edify yourself and grow yourself. It's not supposed to, it doesn't have to always have 100% of the, what's the word that I want to use? The the effect that you want to have. It doesn't have to always have a
yeah,
certain look. And I think that's what kills us. A lot of this
yeah,
Americans in general, wherever you live, and it's if you if and we were talking about this the other day, and I think this is that leads in some of this stuff too, is when you live in a country that is the center of empire, basically, you got colonies
hmm
and etc. Basically,
hmm
right? Everything, all the resources go to the center from the periphery. It's how it works. They pump
hmm
everything inside.
yeah.
That means you
Like
become,
Hunger Games.
yeah, and you become
Yeah,
used to what, Kevin? Greed,
yeah,
abundance,
hmm
opulence. That's the word
hmm
opulence, man. Opulence,
yeah. It's a crazy word.
all that stuff, right? It's think,
Opulence.
yeah, no, because Nisha been using
I
it.
can't even
Nisha
say it
wilding.
right.
Nisha been wilding
Opulence.
with that word because somebody she watches that use that word, and I'm thinking about that word. She kept saying, "I said, oh, don't use that word," because when you use that word, it gives you a visceral reaction and don't feel good. It's
Opulence.
opulence. It's like the fattest guy eating a steak, drizzling some cognac down his mouth.
Yeah,
It's like the worst of the worst you
yeah,
could think, right? It's a
yeah,
seven deadly sin almost, right? But that's where we're
yeah,
living at. We're living in the center of
yeah,
that. So
yeah,
people, when it comes to what we see with quote unquote content creators and them sharing misinformation, participating in disinformation, and of course sensationalism for engagement, it's almost as if they don't do that, they cannot strike the proper nerve to even affect and push the needle. These people are so dumbed out on it. And I know the other night I was calling it it's calling it internet crack. So all these people, they internet cracked out. They all fenny whopped. They out here tapping
yeah.
on the
Well,
vein, trying to get some more. And they'll do anything to get to it. So if they got to pop the Bucci out there, if they got to go and tell a lie, if they have to go and say something sensational, or the issue with young lady Jaguar Wright, if they allow somebody on a platform that they know should not be out here speaking in public because they're dealing with actually like documented mental illness and stuff like that, why would you let this person go out there and expose themselves or put themselves in a position where they might be a delivery tool for information that's improper, and then somebody
yeah,
picks it up, influence on it, makes a decision make based on the information? Because some
yeah,
of that stuff she's saying, people don't get, it can be mad inflammatory to the point where it causes people to go out and do violence. That's stuff I'd be scared about because these things are mad disrespectful. These things that people talking about, like these people are doing some very bad things, heinous acts. And if these people are still out here free, moving around and etc., somebody might want to hurt someone.
yeah. It's just like like we seen a couple weeks ago at the debate with the dogs and the cats being it. Like they're eating the dogs, they're
Yes,
eating the cats. I
yes.
seen it on TV.
Come on, man. You can't. And you saw what it
It's
led to.
dangerous.
Like, bro,
That's
you
what I'm
can't.
saying.
Come on, man. It's dangerous. I would never go out there and do anything like that because I know how that stuff affects folks. That's why you should always look to get three sources for any information that you place out. So if you put some
Yeah,
information out, go find three independent sources. It doesn't have to always be perfect, but three independent sources that you can verify. And then from there, you can at least point back to where you got the information from. And if there's an issue with where out of those three sources, then it's not on you. You're safe. That's proper
yeah,
journalism.
yeah. And that sort of things is wild. Like I remember, like especially that Jaguar Wright thing. I was talking to somebody the other day, and this is one of the common things you always hear. They're like, man, she was saying this stuff. Nobody sued her yet, man. Nobody sued her or took her to court. And she's saying those things. I'm like, well, duh. I was like, they're not good. You're not going to take somebody to court that one, it they don't have any money. What are you going to take somebody to court for? What are you going to do? You're going to get them arrested? You're going to sue them? If you're going to sue them, what are you going to sue them for? What kind of bag does this person have? This one hasn't been in the music industry in almost in over 20 years,
Especially if it's not going to
right?
affect an actual case,
Yeah.
criminal or
Yeah,
civil.
That's what I'm
Like,
saying. So you have none of that stuff,
stuff costs
right?
money. Yeah,
Every At the very least, everything that she is saying, just from what we know, is just hearsay,
yeah,
right?
yeah.
Because we don't know. She hasn't physically shown us anything, right? She hasn't shown us no video. She hasn't shown us no tape. She hasn't shown us
Physical
any type
evidence,
of
anything like
physical evidence.
a darn jacket, hat, clip,
That's
bike
it.
tire.
I just That's it. Like even with all this stuff, because you remember this whole idea about the record industry and people being in the dirt. This goes back years and years and years,
Yep,
even before she came on the scene talking about this.
yep.
So you had folks like Professor Griff that were talking like this.
And he had
You
actual
had
evidence,
reference,
and
and like
nobody
I
ain't
said, and
listening
you
to
would
him.
see
Ain't
and you
nobody
would see
listening to
these
him.
videos. And you know the wild thing is this Joker would have these videos, right? And he would do the presentations,
Yep,
right? And he'd have all these papers and this stuff
books,
written up, right? And nobody thought
articles.
about it. But it
Yep,
wasn't until she came along and she got on the couch and was started talking and spewing all this wild stuff, right? And talking and all emotional. Because like I said, obviously she's going through a lot and she
yeah,
really needs to get help with really helping address some of the trauma that she has and really
exactly.
getting medication and what support she needs, right?
Hmm.
So she can get healthy. But like I said, it engages people because they see this woman up here yelling and talk like
Car
saying
crash.
like these people's names out loud,
Hmm.
right, and accusing them of stuff right there. Like, oh man, she's dropping everything. Man, she dropping all this stuff on there. I was like, how do you know? Were you there? None of us were there. If anything,
People
it's just an
forget,
entertaining story to us.
Kevin. People forgot that people know how to lie,
Yeah,
or
like
they
people
know how
know
to
a
tell a
lot.
story.
And so
Or
story. She's just a great
what we were saying
storyteller.
earlier, Kevin. We're explaining that if you know or been around people with mental illness, specifically who schizoaffective deal with
Schizophrenia.
yeah
Yeah. Anytime they,
bipolarism because of mania
yeah.
and etc. Right? You got stories where they'll tell you stories that are ain't real,
Hmm.
and if you
Yeah.
leave them unregulated, they're just gonna keep running with that story all the way down.
Yeah, they'll go down a rabbit hole. They
Yeah,
might tell you a little something true at the beginning. They might even throw something true in at the end,
that's it.
right? But the whole path that it takes from to get to that beginning of that conversation to the end, it's a whole bunch of wild stuff they're
Whole
gonna
bunch of
say.
wild. And they ain't
Because
bad
of course,
people. They ain't bad people.
no,
They actually have a disease.
yeah, and this is something me and you know about firsthand just
Yeah,
with our mom,
yeah.
right? And so that's the thing. Like sometimes she be on point with certain stuff, and sometimes she's not. And then
Hmm.
the thing is, what makes it so hard sometimes when we're sitting having a conversation with her is we gotta be discerning when we're listening to her because sometimes she'll say something that's very factual in the middle of all that madness,
Exactly.
right? Or
Hmm.
we won't expect the one kernel of truth, but
Hmm.
guess what? Then she'll hit us with everything else. We're like, oh yeah, we know this is
Yeah,
wild.
we can't do that.
But it's
Get back on
just, but
track.
one of the things that helped us out with that taught us just to be discerning when it comes to listening to people, especially people who deal with things like mental health,
Yeah, you can't
right?
take it
And you just
lightly.
got,
Like it's
you can't,
not to
yeah, you
take
can't,
not to be taken
yes,
lightly, especially her because she's dealing with real trauma. And
yeah,
one of the issues I know that they were saying, and I gotta go and actually look at this interview to see what they were saying, but and I'll probably see it. And I know you probably, if you watched the interview, Ken, you probably saw it because we know what this is. But when she was talking about some of those things, basically, you're dealing with a person with trauma, and you're bringing the trauma back up on TV.
yeah,
What do you think is going to happen?
yeah, yeah.
You don't
And
do
you
it
want
that
them
way.
to
That's not the
sit in
way you
this.
do it.
Yeah, and you want them to sit in this for your own entertainment. You want them to sit in this for entertainment purposes,
Hmm.
right? Like, and
It's
that's just, and
torment.
that's why I kind of feel, yeah, and that's why I feel upset with just everyone who has been interviewing her and keeps trying to get her to bring up those things,
Yeah, man.
right?
That's not
Because
right.
that's all it is. That's all it is. Like I say, you keep having somebody relive horrible moments, right, in their lives, especially from. It doesn't even have to be from the thing specific in the music industry, and that's what people don't get when you listen to a lot of these conversations. She talks about, or at least she alludes or even shares things, well, not true or not, but other things that happened to her when she was younger,
Exactly.
and by her talking about these other experiences, it helps trigger those other things, and so
Exactly.
they're constantly being triggered. They're
Yep.
constant. It's so yeah, it'd be like, for example, let's say someone had a fear of being locked in closets because of claustrophobia, because the parents used to be using locker room closets,
Hmm.
right, when they would misbehave. But yet you want them to keep talking about relationships with family members, right? of course they're to get triggered because they're thinking about this family member, people who might have been associated with this traumatic experience happening to you.
Mm-hmm.
No wonder they're gonna get up there and spaz out and yell things and say all kind of wild stuff.
Yeah.
Everybody thinks that's engaging and they think that's entertaining, but
That's pain. You watching somebody
yeah,
in tribulation like that ain't nice.
stupid.
That ain't
I don't
nice.
watch that. And
But
so
that's
with that
that's
said,
where we at. We in the center
that's
of the
where we
empire. Bread and
yeah.
bread and circuses, feeding people to crocodiles. We
Mm,
can't do it that way anymore, Kevin. Like they can't just throw people to the line, watch people. So they do it digitally. Put her
mm.
on Piers Morgan, let them rip her to shreds. Because Kevin, when I tell me if I'm wrong about this, Kevin, because this is what I'm saying makes it look like that. After she did her portion, right? They bought in Vlad to wrap it up. And he basically debunked everything that she said previously.
Oh, I
So
didn't
that's
know
why I
that.
want to go back and watch it because now it makes sense why they lit her on there. It was purposeful.
Mm,
That's what I'm saying, Kevin. Bread and circuses. We're gonna put these people on this. We're gonna lit these lions out in the middle of this gladiator arena, and those little men over there with their swords and shields got to keep themselves from dying. That's what they did with her because they knew they had somebody who wasn't capable of protecting and guarding themselves against being on a large platform like that and receiving all that attention that quick. So yeah, she's gonna say her thing. She's gonna get her piece out, right? That's what people don't realize. Like, yeah, she did it. She did it. She did it. But there's effects that she has to pay for that now because it's not. She's
that's
not in the
it.
same mindset set as or state as a lot of other people are. Can't handle that.
Exactly.
That's hard. I
Mm-mm.
mean, most people they can't
Yeah.
handle that. The fame will make them go crazy,
Yeah, but
rather than just reliving trauma.
that's nasty work though. They brought Vlad on after that, especially with the issues that Vlad's been having as of late.
Hell
Yeah,
yeah,
that's
because they
kind of
trying to save him.
that's very yeah, that's very insidious
Very
work.
insidious. Very. That's why I got to watch it because I got to see. I got to
Yeah.
see how it look because I'm thinking about Pierce Morgan, right? And I've watched Pierce Morgan back in
Hmm.
the day, but I'm like, what did that look like? How did they? Who contacted whom? Why? What was the reason for it? How did they explain
Hmm.
it to her? Where did she fly over to? Where she stay at?
Yeah.
Kevin, think about this. Like, there's
Yeah.
logistics that go
It's
into
all
this.
these logistics that you gotta. Yeah, that's intentional. That's intentional.
Like I said,
And the
Kevin,
only
they
reason this is
writing the
happening.
plan. We get a plan down.
Yeah.
We're gonna write it. And like I
Yeah.
said, this ain't no conspiracy. It's called business, man. This is big business.
Yeah.
This people
Yeah.
making money. Like y'all be talking about.
Yeah.
We want to make them dollars. We bosses and stuff. Everybody boss over here. That's what bosses do. They bring some black woman on a thing. They tear her down, make her
Yep.
look crazy, and then bring a white man up to clean
That's
it up
it.
behind it. My fault. I don't want to get racist, but it's just funny. That's what it looks like. These people keep talking about being bosses, right? Trying to make
Yeah.
money. Every piece of money, every money ain't all money's not good money. Sometimes it's not the right way to do it. This is one of them situations, not the right way to do it. And I feel so bad
Man,
for her, because she was
I
very
know.
talented, good person,
Yeah.
well meaning, but now she's not in control of that stuff, man. She can't be in control
No.
of it. Um,
Mm-mm.
and that's what oh, that's the one of the tie-ins for all the people though, is that they decided to partake in these avenues, but they don't have any control anymore. They've lost
No.
control. They have
Yeah.
lost the thing that they were fighting
And
for.
they all had originally all had good intentions.
Yep,
That's what people don't get. Like they were all like honest, like well-meaning people before they decided to engage in the content creation world, at least on the level in which they wanted to engage with it.
yep. And another
Yeah.
thing too, in relation
Just
to
like the Book of
this,
Clarence.
who? Yeah. So that's what I was about to
It's like the
say.
Book of Clarence. That's
Yeah, this is
it.
about it. So I wanted to discuss this before we get off. Um, One of the things you'll see in the artwork is that we do have the Book of Clarence folk behind these people, because what I thought was funny, my brother talking about movies lately and stuff like that, and some of the things that happened with the last one that we did about the Diddler. We were talking about Get Him to the Greek, and y'all need to go watch that film and
Please
see how
watch
my
Games of the
man,
Greek.
how you can see how Sons is
I
acting.
never watched that
You got
tonight.
to
I
see
never
how
watched that
Son
tonight. I gotta
acting,
go back and watch
and
that.
it just clicks. It goes that ta-da. Well, Book of Clarence. What's so interesting about that is that Jay-Z was one of the backers of that film. A lot of hip hop people behind it backing that film, and it's funny because the people that back that film, when you When you watch the movie and you see the story and you see why the person's doing what he's doing and what he's looking to get, while he's beside the quote unquote authentic version of it, who's not doing it for that reason. It's very telling of the stuff that we look at and deal with, meaning people literally selling themselves, playing a fraud, hustling all the way so they can get that taste of
Hmm.
being quote unquote divine, making it to the successful path, whatever you want to call it in your way, whatever you want to
Hmm.
call it, to you, but making it. And what we've been witnessing is that folks, Charleston White, and Cat Williams, um, Jaguar Wright, and Shannon Sharp, they have all decided that in some way, shape, or form. And with Cat Williams, it's a little different because it's not that he needed the fame or anything like that, but
Hmm.
I think some of it, he also dealing with trauma and pain from
Hmm.
dealing with the industry. It goes back to the industry with some content. No,
Yeah.
entertainment
Hmm.
industry. In entertainment industry, he has dealt with a lot of pitfalls and he wanted to
Hmm.
make sure that
Yeah.
he had get backs at people. And so he, by spreading misinformation, disinformation rather, was able to assume and get some of that back, get some of that feeling
Hmm.
back. And I'll say this, man, this is why you don't do people wrong, man. This is why you deal with people in honest ways. You do good business. You
Hmm.
make sure you're forthright in what you're doing with folks. You don't double cross people or treat people
Yeah.
mean. I know there's a verse in Proverbs, and I gotta pull it up. I saved it because I thought it was dope. It talked about people who use sarcasm in a hurtful way. And the point is trying to get to is that you shouldn't go out and speak in sarcastic tones or belittle people in order to get yourself to a better plateau or whatever it is, because what you're doing is you're literally gnashing and pulling at people's souls.
Mm.
And what a lot of these folks are doing with this content, they are missing out on the fact that they have responsibility. And part of that responsibility is to be ethical, to follow certain kind of policies, and to have regulation over what you're doing. Because what's so funny is like with Charles White, a lot of these other people, they tell you, I wouldn't expose nobody to this stuff, or et cetera, because I know how bad it is. But that's how you make your living. And why would I?
Oh, that's a pretty dope verse. I didn't realize that. I'm reading it now.
Right? Isn't that a
Basically,
dope
it says,
verse?
"As a madman who casteth firebrands, arrows, and death, so is the man that deceiveth his neighbor,
Yes.
and saith, Am I not in sport?" That's pretty dope.
Yes. It's straightforward, Kevin. You know, we grew up in the Bible church. You got
Yeah.
to use the Bible to prove your point. But that's what I'm saying, Kevin. Like that's why you don't do that. But people, we have made a habit and a culture off of that, and we're reaping the quote unquote the seeds of it.
Mm.
But it's causing us also to not face up to the fact that you do have responsibility for the content that you create.
Hmm.
Even if you
Yeah.
think, well, if they don't like it, they can just turn the channel or whatever it is. No, motherfucker. The problem is this: you can
Hmm.
have as many good channels as you want, right? You can have all kinds of choice and selection out there. There's nothing wrong with it. But poison is still poison. And however I get that poison into my system, it's going to affect my system. It's going to affect our children.
Hmm.
It's going to affect those people out here who are not with the poison, right? It affects
Hmm.
everybody somewhere down the line. And it's not that the world has to be a perfect, clean, beautiful place all the time. I understand it can't be, but I'm not going to add to the poison that's already out there.
That's true.
That's
That's true.
called responsibility. And I think that
Yeah.
content creators or entertainers, that's just what we are, entertainers should
Yeah.
have a
Hmm.
responsibility to produce a product. Now, this is not a new idea. This is not new.
Hmm.
It's mad
No,
old.
it's not.
They
Hmm.
talk about it
Yes.
in Plato's Republic. About they actually they talk about the idea of what's called good culture or music and etc. and
Hmm.
bad music and culture.
Yeah.
They talk back then. This is before you
That's
had
what I'm
Sexy
saying.
Red.
Yeah.
They knew about bad and good music and culture. So that means
Yeah.
back in the day,
Hmm.
all the way back then, they had some Greeks making some bad music. And what they meant by
Yeah.
bad music is music that was detrimental to the society and the culture, that brought people
Hmm.
down. It didn't
Yeah.
raise vibrations, it brought them down. Lower vibrational
Hmm.
resonations all over, right? So in that same sense, you have the opposite. And it was the discussion was whether or not it should be something that should be regulated by the actual government, or should people just have to have their own decision and choice on what to choose or not choose. And that leaves us in the dilemma that we're in now. Everybody will tell you, I have the right to make what I want to make. If you don't like
Yeah.
it, you don't have to like it. There's no moral behind it. You just got to deal
No,
with it.
that's it.
So, I
Well,
mean, what do you think
but
about that, Kevin? Do you think we should have some kind of responsibility? Do you think there should be?
yeah, yeah, I think so. I think we should have some responsibility. The problem is, it's just with the system in which we live in, there's so much incentive, especially financial incentive,
Mm,
for you to. There's there's nothing saying that whatever I put out there, as long as I'm getting paid for it, I don't necessarily need to worry about the repercussions of it. Right. So we live in the same world where you put toxic waste out there because it might be
that's what
cheaper
I'm
to make a
saying.
good using toxic waste. So
And it
you benefit,
affects even
where it
affects the
costs more,
people what they're
right?
doing the toxic waste dump.
Yeah. So, and like I said, we could definitely get more into that one. Oh man, this conversation go on for a while. But with that said, I know we need to wrap up
Yep.
though,
Need to wrap up.
because I know we passed our little hour limit that we kind of promised ourselves. But with that said, man, we just appreciate everybody joining us. So this will be dropping. So we record this on Friday night.
Yep.
So we'll be dropping this Monday. So just the beginning of the week. Also, make sure to check out the latest episode of the Hilltop Glove, where
Yes.
we're talking with Bay Ray,
Yes.
Columbia-based artist, like I said, father, husband, photographer,
Yep.
also that as well,
Yep.
and awesome
Down to
R&B
earth.
artist, down to
Real.
earth, humble dude. Make sure to check that out, and also like other folks that we work with too, as well. Make sure you check out them. So, like I said, a lot of those content creators too, who want to be able to share a lot of their stuff too, through um, arbitrary combos as
Yep.
well. So, like people like Danny Foxworth,
Hmm.
Pete Reed. Gosh, there's so many of them. Southside, Dre.
Good Lord,
Um,
preach.
there's so many. There's so many. Preach.
Hmm.
Um, who else? Oh yeah, Tony Esther. Who else has the pod? Oh, Shiana
Yep.
Rivers. It's so many content creators.
Nah, I can't get
There's so
imagine.
many local folk we work with. And I just want to make sure that we always shout out these folks
Yeah,
and all the
man.
awesome stuff that they're doing. Also, shout out to Rod Fly, 92. He has a new podcast that he started. Him and his homeboy started that I'm about to start checking out this weekend as well. But with that said, man, this is Skip,
DJ and what?
and this has been an episode of Arbitrary Conversations. Peace.
Peace.